Hello and welcome to Load Bearing Beans.
Jesus.
It's 9:24 in the a.m. on a Thursday. Feeling good.
I'm holding a newspaper up by my face so you can see that that is true.
With a
Because the
dime for
newspaper
scale.
shows the time.
Sure.
Right.
Anyhow, Load Bearing Beams is a podcast that we do together, and my name is Matt Stokes.
I'm Lacey Roth.
We're married to each other, and we have a podcast together. Isn't that sweet?
Oh.
We're a very sweet couple. Nice couple.
Oh.
That's what people say. Oh, they're a nice couple, aren't
That's
they? Do you think anybody says that about us?
It better not.
They're a nice couple.
Ruining my street cred.
The point of this podcast is it's a movie podcast where we watch movies that one of us loves a lot, hasn't seen in a while, is maybe a little iffy on. We watch together, and then we analyze.
Okay, but the main point is it's typically a movie that seems so obvious that everyone should have seen it by now because it played a more significant role in our life than maybe we realize. And the way you can tell that that is true is because when you find out someone has not seen a movie, you go, how'd you miss that?
You'd say that's the main point?
I don't know how else to say what would make something a load-bearing beam as opposed to just a random movie you could pluck out of the air that someone hasn't seen. I could understand. That's why I don't think yours fits that this time.
It doesn't.
Okay, but like when I say I haven't
why.
seen The Godfather, you should have a reaction to that.
Right.
So it's perfect. And when you say you haven't seen Dirty Dancing, now maybe that's not fair for me to have a reaction, but in my reality and in my growing up, it would have been impossible to have missed that movie. I
got you. My point is more like that you can't it will kind of hurt me if you don't like this movie.
Right, that's true.
I'm not necessarily saying like this is a ubiquitous movie that everyone should have seen because I'm so like
that's not what I
narrowly
mean.
focused that if I've seen the movie, I assume everyone else needs to have seen it too.
When you're right, you're right. All right. I've been trying to find a way to sum succinctly what the hell this is. That was the closest I've ever gotten, and it's dead wrong. Dead wrong.
It's whatever you want.
Dead
it to
wrong.
Be.
No, it's not.
All right. Agreed that the movie we've chosen this time doesn't quite fit the bill, but I've been trying to like a lot of times we'll pick movies that are like we watched when we were growing up, and then you go a long time without seeing it, and you watch it as an adult, and you're like, oh, this is stupid.
This one you knew.
I knew in this case, like, it's not that this movie would be stupid, but like, would you now see it and feel like this thing is fucking pretentious and like it thinks it's so much more like it's like a smug junior high school boy who's
it was profound,
has all the answers.
You had a certain feeling about yourself after you watched it and decided you liked it.
Right.
Would that feeling seem make you feel foolish now actually having seen some things done maybe
I watched it in college as, an English major who's only
student.
reading tons of shit. And like it hits all the marks that you would like that you're learning about in your classes, like all the things you're looking for, themes and symbols and such. Not that that's what you'd learn about in college English classes. I'm just saying like it's the kind of thing that appeals, I think, to that kind of mindset. So when you're removed from that,
right? Was it enjoyable apart from you trying to learn specific things and it being a tool for you to say, I get it. I now see what I've been being taught in these classes in the cinema. But was it good apart from that? Is
it more than that?
Is it right? Does it transcend?
So the movie we're talking about is Synecdoche, New York.
Easy for you to say.
2008 film from Charlie Kaufman, director Charlie Kaufman, starring Philip Seymour Hoffman.
There's no normal Kaufman, right?
Go ahead.
Because of Andy
Expound
Kaufman.
on that
I just have the one other.
And I mean, this might be like probably the least widely seen movie that we've discussed on the show. Maybe?
I had never even heard of it.
But among among movie people,
I'm sorry.
Among movie people, it was a big movie because it was by this director. It was Charlie Kaufman this was his first time directing after writing Being John Malkovich adaptation and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Right.
He was like big shit writer who liked to bend reality and do meta commentaries on the creative process itself and memories and all kinds of shit like that.
Meta? Yeah.
And so this was the first time he was allowed to direct a movie, and we'll get to how the movie itself is kind of about him getting the chance, getting the go ahead to make whatever kind of crazy movie he wants to make. And it also seems like it kind of destroyed him. He gave an interview a few years ago where he said he's made one movie since then, Anomalisa, which I haven't seen, but I hear is really good. But he says he feels like he blew his chance to be a director because nobody's going to let him direct again. That remains to be seen. But all of that is just to say...
How expensive was this movie?
That's a good question.
I mean, what he's literally doing in the movie looks impossibly expensive, but just to recreate that, to make a movie about it, I was curious.
Well, it was $20 million budget, low budget but big budget. This was distributed by Sony Pictures Classic, so
it was an instant classic.
Let's see. I don't know much about the production who bankrolled this movie. Okay, no, I mean he had the backing of a major studio, so there's a kind of old school filmmaking attitude of like working with studios and working in the traditional model. That, like Charlie Kaufman might be saying, I can't do that anymore. They're not going to give me money again to do what I want. So maybe it's to do other things. Maybe you have to crowdfund. Maybe you have to go to, I don't know. We usually do 2 movies per podcast to try to get more podcasts out. Last week we did 1 movie. This week we're going to do 1 movie, although we watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind also to kind of prepare for this podcast.
And I think that it made sense for us to watch that because I would say that that's a load-bearing beam for me, and I feel like, I really connected to that movie when it came out. So it bummed me out that I couldn't use it for this podcast. So I like that we could couple it because you've seen it.
Because I've seen it, and I like it.
I like it, right. So we can't, it's nothing to discuss. So it felt right to fold it in.
But is the last thing that he had done before doing this, can it sort of inform what we think about this? The other thing is that we watched this movie like 5 weeks ago. Because we intended to record like the next day and just shit got in the way as we talked about in the last episode. I don't know. We'll see how this goes.
Yes, it's definitely not the kind of movie you can have a lot of distance from. There's so freaking much. We need to get back into the habit of taking notes.
Yeah, for me, like until we watched it recently, I'd only seen this twice. Both times, in a short period of time in college. I was a senior in college. It was my last semester of college. I remember watching it on a rainy morning before I went to work at a party supply store. And I was just bummed the fuck out when I went to work.
It's not an uplifting...
But it's always stuck with me, especially the idea that everyone is the star of their own movie.
That is the best takeaway.
What is the source of like almost every fight that you have with somebody you love? I feel like can be summed up in like, you didn't follow my script.
Right.
I had an idea of how I wanted this to go and you didn't do it.
I feel like that is how you figure out who is a laid back person, type B or whatever you want to say, and who is not. It's the kind of person who often puts a lot of thought into how something's going to go. Is just not. Yeah. That must be the quality that people who can just go with the flow have, is that they don't do that.
Which, God, I wish
they live in that moment. Which even saying that sounds made up. There's no way. How do you do that? But people where things just roll off of them, it has to be because they did not try to envision the exact thing that would happen in the exact way to make something perfect. Or
I like to think that I try to like apply that from this movie, try to have just internalized trying to understand that other people are living out their own scripts.
You know where I have applied that the most successfully, and I don't remember when it clicked or why, but I don't get mad in traffic anymore because I just heard somewhere once that guy who seems to be being very mean to you for no reason is just probably having a really shit day. He's probably in a rush, and he's got his own. Then that's a perfect example of I am a random extra intrusion on the movie of his life, and he in mine. And so, of course, in my movie, that anger needs to mean something, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
because I have no idea of what surrounds it. He's not a B plot. I'll never know. I can just pretty much assume it has nothing to do with me.
Right.
Right.
And the effort it takes to even like honk your horn is like barely anything, and it probably means absolutely nothing to this person.
I think I've honked my horn once in 3 years. It's just the thing I do
Yeah,
least.
you get-
I have no confidence about it.
You get like, you're shocked if I honk my horn. Like if you're driving.
I don't even
next to
remember
me.
you ever doing it.
I do it sometimes. You're like, whoa, whoa.
It seems so rude.
Person could get shot for that.
Well,
Seems to be what you generally think.
no, it just I'm a jumpy person, and that nothing makes me jump more than a siren or a horn.
Yeah.
Rude.
All right, this movie. How do we? You want to take a shot at explaining
Well,
what
wait.
it is?
Okay, so you feel that you've explained why it was important to you? Your history?
It profoundly affected me because of how much it had never. I mean, it sounds stupid to say, but realizing that life is
Unscripted.
life is unscripted,
mess?
but we kind of treat it as
Yes.
as a project we're working on.
Right. This like will be done one day. And like once people see the big picture, they'll understand all the things they didn't understand before.
Yeah.
Like there's a means to this end. I don't.
But also, like, the effort of building that production is also going to kill you. I don't
right.
know.
Or you'll be so old by the time you get to the end of it that you forgot to enjoy anything.
I remember being very moved by Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance. I remember the conversation he has with his daughter as she's dying. Like, that stuck with me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that the themes that I harped on back then, revisiting it now, didn't so much stand out to me like a lot of other things about the movie. And that's how I think you know it's a great movie, is that there's so much in there. Because
right.
I think death is a big theme.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I think to truly appreciate and pull out the most meaningful things, I'd need to watch it again because there's so much distraction. But that might be part of the point too, is that you don't know which thread to follow. And that's because he was trying to make something that was so true to life that you don't know what single event in any one day is going to be the standout by the end of the day. You know, it's all just happening. So there's a lot just frickin' happening where you're looking for movie tropes like, oh, this is happening, so I'll bet that's going to mean this later, and it never ever does.
Right.
So you're so overwhelmed by nothing having meaning, and then you think, not in a glib way, life is that. There's not meaning on everything. Things are just all happening in unison.
And his character, Caden, is a theater director, and his idea with this, he gets this unlimited budget to make this play that he wants to be an exact replication of life.
Which is what the director is literally doing in real life.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I would not say that Charlie Kaufman is trying to make a movie where things don't... Like, I think he's trying to do something different than what the character's trying to do. But we can get into that. But is to like say like most things in life don't mean anything, and I want to show that in my play.
Right, but it means everything. But because it does.
It means you have to include everything.
But the nothingness is the point. It is what your life is made of. So feel free to enjoy the nothing instead of obsessing over what you think something is a sign of. You know, like foreshadowing. Like he starts falling apart from the very beginning.
Yeah, physically.
So you just think he's going to die. But yeah, he's going to die because he dies of old age. We all
and in fact,
die.
Everyone else dies before him. Like, everyone he cares about dies before he does.
Yes, it's brilliant. Because,
including his young daughter.
Like, all the foreshadowing is supposed to make you think, no, he's really sickly. This is going somewhere. But no. We all, every day, think that any kind of little trauma to our body or illness or bad decision means... It reminds you of your mortality.
He goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, there's something wrong with you. I'm not sure what it is. It's never really explained, but it's like, we got to get some tests done. And I hadn't, originally when I saw the movie, had not had much experience having to go to doctors to figure out what's wrong with me. And now I have, and it's like, oh, that is what it's like. Like, doctors don't fucking know.
No.
And they're like, all right, well, I'm going to send you off to this other person. And I...
Share the liability.
I have a spinal disease. arthritis adjacent. Let's say it is. And while trying to figure it out, I went to like 4 different doctors, and they all gave me different things. Like one of them was like, you need to go on a different diet, and this is all in your cardiovascular system. And another one's like, you need inserts in your shoes. Until I finally got to a rheumatologist who gave me a blood test, and like, no, this is what you have, and now I get a treatment for that. But like, if I had just accepted any one of those 4 doctors, I would have just done the thing that they said to do. But when that's going on with you, it feels like the world is ending and nobody has any idea what to do.
Well, you never feel more realistic. You never feel more like an extra in someone else's thing, in someone else's movie, than when a doctor is in a rush.
Yes, because
like you
to them,
his appointments are packed. He's got to get home to his family too. Like whatever, he's got to pee. Who knows what the person's dealing with when the doctor walks into the office? He might have to just go to the bathroom.
To the doctor, you are his or her like annoying. What an annoying email is to you in your job. You're like that. Just another task. Just another thing.
Well, right, with very little awareness of. I rearranged my entire day and was nervous about this appointment for a few days leading up to it, and then I'm going to leave feeling like, well, now I've got to make another one. Like there's something so disenchanting about the reality of doctors and figuring out health things.
And having like a body, being a living thing means you're going to die and deteriorate, and it's kind of like an accident of evolution that we're aware of that. And have to deal with that.
Right, like a bouquet of flowers, like being aware.
We talked about it on
another petal.
When we talked about terms of endearment. It's like the tragedy of being human is being aware that you're going to die, that all you are is just like flesh and decaying cells.
Right, well, yes, the entire experience of growing up is waiting to ripen, and then once you're hardly aware that that's your peak until you start to decay. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, all I wanted was boobs.
And now that you have boobs, all you want to do is...
Well, I didn't enjoy them while they were at their peak because I didn't know. And then I go and have a couple of babies. I'm telling you, I've got a point.
Okay.
And then I go and have a couple of children, and they're different. I would have maybe enjoyed them more before.
What would you have done to enjoy them more? How would that have played out in practice?
Them. I have no idea. That's a great... question.
Hello, boob.
It's just funny. The obsession over wanting something to grow and then never realizing it has until it starts to wither away.
I always like it when the message is undermines the idea that you need to cherish every moment, because I don't think there is a way to cherish every moment. I don't think that actually means something.
I don't either.
How does one cherish every moment?
And people telling you to not blink, with your children, because you blink an eye and they're growing. I fucking know that. That's the thing. I don't sit here and think that's not true. I sit here and obsess over, I am wasting this. I am on my phone.
There's no other way.
I am not enjoying this 2-year-old's essence. I want to. I feel like I do. But yeah, there's no way to feel like I really absorbed that year you were alive.
I properly absorbed it.
Right, right. We're all just handling tasks. I don't know. Wait, am I supposed to not work? Then we're all going to live a very different life.
I'm sure that at some other point, I'm going to say the exact opposite of this to somebody. I'm going to point to this. The movie, the plot of the movie, in as much as there is, I think it's actually a pretty conventional plot. I don't think this movie is as weird as it seems like it is. Philip Seymour Hoffman plays Caden. He's married to Catherine Keener. She doesn't like him. He's a theater director in Synecdoche, New York, little small town, and he puts on plays, and she thinks his plays are shit because he's not trying anything. He's just doing Death of a Salesman.
This is the problem with being married to another artist, because she's an artist too. So you tend to have competing theories. It's like being married to someone with a different religion. Like, if you got a battle for what's art.
Oh, sure.
You're never going to agree. Like you're always going to have the superior art in your own mind. So that means you're never really going to respect your partner the way you probably should if you did completely different things.
And she makes miniature paintings.
Right.
that you have to see with a magnifying glass,
Right.
and they get smaller as the movie goes along as his production gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
You get it?
I guess. Opposites. Am I right?
For the first 30 minutes of the movie, he obsesses over some illnesses he's got. I always remembered him saying, "There's blood in my stool." The word stool seemed like a weird thing for him to, like a weird clinical word for him to say about his own shit. He says it to her, and she's like, "What, your stool in your office?" Which is, I like. It's a good reaction, because who would say stool? Anyway, you would?
Yes, because I had a lot of stomach things when I was...
Lacey just raised her hand.
Sorry.
Okay, so you had a lot of clinical experience.
Yeah,
Okay.
and had to... Yeah, there's a whole process.
Then his wife wants to go to Germany with their daughter. She's going to come back in a few months. He kind of knows, it doesn't feel like you're going to come back in a few months.
Well, and he was invited at first.
Was he?
Yeah, and then she decides it's probably best if he doesn't go.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Oh, God. And that's just kind of devastating to think about. Think about being told, I don't think it's good if you go.
Well, and to just be not tricked, kind of be in on the trick, but just have no awareness that this means I'm not going to see my daughter for years. But she's at a time in her development where she can be talked into whatever. So it's like you had a perfectly good relationship with a child, and they left you while being impressionable and got to have their opinions formed by two people who don't like you. That's fucking terrifying.
Well, okay, but to him, they're not saying we're leaving for years. We're going on a vacation to Germany.
Right.
Well, a summer vacation or whatever. We're going to be back in a few months.
Well, it's just like what his
when
doctor
it's
did
shown,
to him.
it seems a little murky. It's it seems both like she's leaving forever and she's leaving for any normal vacation. And she says we'll talk when I get back because our marriage is on the rocks and I don't know what I'm doing, but I need some time to think, and I think it'll be good for you if you stay here and think.
It's exactly like what happened at the doctor.
It kind of, but it captures pretty well how I think it would feel to be in that.
Yeah.
Where you're not totally sure what's going on.
Again, yeah, because she's leading her life trying to figure out what to do, and it hardly matters how it really affects him, and she still doesn't really know. She's supposed to be the expert in that relationship as to how's this all going, and her opinion is, not sure.
She leaves. She takes the daughter. Then he gets a grant to do whatever he wants to put on a play. The details of the grant are never explained, but it seems like he just has unlimited funds now. He can do whatever he wants. So his idea is to get a giant warehouse in Brooklyn, or might be Soho. It's in New York City, and I think it's Brooklyn. And he wants to just recreate his own world inside of the play. And I guess the idea is it'll be a sort of they have these live plays that you can sort of walk in
through,
and explore
inside of big buildings.
Yeah.
Right? They go and
that's what he's
and no one
do.
breaks character. You just go and watch whatever it is they're doing.
The attempt to capture, to make a stage version of what life is really like and what his life is really like. So then the movie deals with how would you actually do that? What does that even mean?
How painful
you have
is
to
that?
cast people to play all these things, and then how did the actors playing out people in your life interact with the real things going on in your life? What is what you see them doing affect how you view what happens in your own life?
And at what point is the fact that you're directing a play about life mean that you then need to cast people who are the actors you're directing in the play in your life? It just keeps Inception, right? It just keeps going in on itself.
It gets Inception-y.
And it gets it goes there it at some point, right? What's his right hand lady, his love that he never quite got,
Hazel.
Yeah, at some point they have to hire Hazel, who's in the play, a Hazel. It just keeps going.
The actor who plays Caden, eventually has to get his own actor to also play him, and then these actors form relationships with each other.
Right.
The actor who plays Caden falls in love with the real Hazel, but then Philip Seymour Hoffman's like, no, I'm in love with her, and then he eventually kills him. So as all of this is going on,
impossible to explain this.
As all of this is going on, his wife and daughter have been in Germany, and a lot of time is passing. And you're kind of aware of it, but you're kind of not.
17 years. Right.
Until eventually
Wait, but he gets remarried, and you think that that's an illusion, but then he does, and then he has another daughter.
He does, yes.
And there's a lot of parts in this movie
Yeah,
where you think it's a daydream or it's going to stop, because why would a movie take you here? But then they fast forward 3 or 5 years and you're like, no, this is reality and it's happened and it's almost over, actually. He got married and we get to see it at the end, even though it seems like it would be an epic part of a story. But that's the point. My mom was married almost 4 times. Been engaged for 15 years on the last one. Really won't pull the trigger. But so in her life, it would make complete sense to really fast forward through the second and third one. They didn't actually end up mattering, though in the moment, it was epic. And
in that second marriage, he has a kid with her.
Yeah.
And that kid never means anything to him the way that his lost first daughter means something to him.
Right.
And he eventually reunites with his daughter, who is in a deathbed in like an art gallery and she has this weird science fiction live translator because she only speaks German. And she says, "Why did you leave me?" Basically what she says is like, "Why did you leave me to join your gay lover?" And he's like, "I didn't do that." And she says, "Yes, you did. How could you do that to me?" And she's like dying and she's traumatized right here. And he just says like, "Okay, I'm sorry that I did that." And what does that mean to you, Lacey?
Well, that I guess, I mean, if she lived with that reality her entire life, it doesn't really matter if that wasn't true. What matters is that she was hurt in a very specific way by a thing. So I just assume he means, I'm sorry your life was lived that way. And he's an adult with money. At any point, he could have gone and corrected that story if she had been a more important player in his movie.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's not like they weren't famous artists that he couldn't find.
Right.
She was insanely famous because she was the youngest person to ever be completely full body tattooed. And so she was in magazines. Mm-hmm. He could have just gone and found her. He clearly knew she was going through something because that's not the normal way an 11-year-old looks. Right. And he did not reach out.
But also that he realizes like she just needs to hear this from him, so he'll play along with her delusion.
Well,
but also it feels like to me, yes, he's sorry, but it also feels like to me that like it's not untrue. Like
he did leave her.
He did leave her, yeah, and it just didn't feel like that to him.
Right.
It didn't feel like he left her. He's like, no, you left me.
He felt impotent in all of his relationships. He couldn't keep his first wife to stay around. He couldn't figure out how to love or even not marry the second one. And the one he seemed to be the most compatible with, he never figured out how to make that happen, though she was by his side for decades. Mm-hmm. He has no agency.
Yep.
Completely incapable of actually living a life. So he just keeps...
And feeling like the way to matter is to create a big, important work of art.
He's got to leave a legacy because that's going to prove he was worth a shit, because he never found the words to be worth a shit.
And
he owes her a big apology.
As he's doing all of this, like, just in the background, like, there's some sort of cataclysm has happened and lots of people are dead and, like, there's buildings are burning and there's, like, a blimp in the sky. So, like, World War III has basically destroyed the universe and he hasn't even noticed it.
That's funny.
Because he's been working on his art. I think there's a lot in here about the creative process and, like, what it takes to be an artist.
How narcissistic and self-involved it really is.
Yes. And
it's all internal examination.
I think about this a lot because I think, like...
Of course you do, because it's about you.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Oh. I'm kidding. You're not...
No, but I think, like, I know I would be a better writer if I didn't have a family. Like, I would just, like... I have too much guilt about spending time by myself doing something creative.
Not even just guilt, just distraction. There's something way easier about creating when you've got nothing else to think of.
But if you so it does take a sort of narcissism to say, like, I'm gonna block all that out and just care about what I'm doing.
And then you've also got to say, but this is going to be better for the world because I'm giving them something that didn't exist before. So it's like, it's not like wrong, but like it's okay that I'm I'm super into me because I'm giving the world a gift.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to be a good artist.
But like,
I mean, a good person.
A lot of movies are made about that. I think because
it's a conflict.
Because that's how directors feel. And like, just think of how much you have to sacrifice to do it. That's why so many.
That it takes years to make some movies is amazing. That they have any marriages at all. It is
I
a
think
sacrifice.
a lot about. I think we, for our work, have to travel sometimes to conferences, and when we do that, there's a weird way in which, like, because I've been on both the end where I travel with you and work, and I've been at home while you've gone and traveled by yourself, and like talking to you on the phone feels like we're just living in different universes because time is just moving differently for you when you're traveling and working. Like, it's way sped up. Your intensity is much higher. But you still have your family back at home, and their life is just their life.
Yeah, it's still the pace, and they're kind of annoyed at you.
That's why the movie Interstellar, I always think about that movie because Matthew McConaughey goes to the planet where time moves differently, where like an hour on this planet is 7 years on Earth. And like, I feel like that must be what the director feels it's like to make a movie, because you make a movie and then you're done, like, oh, my kids are now 6 years old.
I don't know if you noticed when you are at the conferences with me, but that you almost have to like get in a different headspace to even make a call to your other reality. Like, you have to get away from noise. You have to, like, I've had a minute in your room by yourself. Like, you have to try and wrap your head around everything that just happened to me today makes no fucking difference to this person that I love.
You have to read your note card.
And he's had
like,
a completely
Macy girl, Sully boy. Like, okay, yeah.
Okay. And he's had a completely different thing happen to him today. And it's just like, you gotta try and match your fucking, it's tricky. It's tricky to not get completely sucked in to the world you're in, and trying to straddle both is hard.
You can't straddle both. You can't straddle both and do either.
You end up sounding insincere to one or the other, right? And I figure if we're taking the time commitment and the money commitment to go do a thing, we probably owe it to ourselves and to the thing to just be all in over there. And that was always very hard that's a really selfish thing to say and a hard thing to express. But like, if I'm going to do this, we need to just go all in, or else what's it for? But I think over the years I have figured out how to do both better, to be both places, or to have more empathy for.
Yeah, I don't think that I've figured out how to do both. I just understand that this is what it's going to be like.
Right. You understanding it more has made it better. And
do you think that I said to you when we watched it that it felt very autobiographical to Philip Seymour Hoffman, because I assume that this is what he does to act, like this is how involved he is in his own acting, and that probably ultimately killed him because he needed to live this way and to get so consumed by roles and to always play such dark characters.
He's always
such dark characters.
Yeah.
That he needed drugs, that he needed that he needed these intense escapes. And you seemed like you objected to that.
No, I guess I just thought, because the director has such a strong style and vision, and that I've seen, this would have been my third out of the third movie fourth movie I'd seen by them and him, and I know that every one of them was mind-bending. I guess I just kind of had a hard time thinking that director would really allow anyone to take over the reins and make it too autobiographical about the actor and not the director.
But maybe that's why Hoffman was drawn to the role, or that's why the role was written for him.
Okay,
I don't know which it was.
But win. No, but again, I think this story can be applied to any kind of person who's very into their work.
Yeah. So
I don't think it matters. I'm sure that it had a lot of autobiographical components for Philip Seymour Hoffman, but I don't think it matters.
It's hard to. It's very. Were you thinking about him being dead while you watched it? I never think
about him being dead, except for when I'm watching The Hunger Games, because I guess because he died before he finished it. I know it's dumb, but no, because I was living my own movie.
Well, like we all are. I love The Burning House.
That's what I was going to say about this movie. it takes every opportunity to be completely literal. Like, unabashedly so. Like,
go on.
No, I mean, it's like anything you could want to. I don't have anything here.
Hazel, the Samantha Morton character, buys a house that is literally on fire, and she's taking a tour, and she's like, yeah, but it's on fire. What's up with that? And the realtor's like, it is on fire, but look at this kitchen island. And she says, I'm really concerned about dying of the smoke. And but she buys it, she lives there for 30 years, and then eventually she does die of the smoke. Now, having bought a house, I will say, that's what happens when you buy a house. Your house is fucking on fire, and it will eventually kill you. Like, your house, when you buy a house, you realize this house is fucking decaying, and it's going to involve so much money and work to fix what's wrong with it. Like, even if it was in tip-top shape and got great inspections, like, nope, everything's going to break. You're going to be responsible for all of it. You're going to trash it. It's going to be disgusting.
Right.
It's going to smell.
It has a smell.
It's going to be mold and rot.
And then it's your problem.
Yep.
Yes, it's when you first have a kid, like, I wrap my head around the cost of the birth. Like, I found a way to get $11,000 to give to a doctor to have it. And then it's like, fucking diapers always? Like, if there's only one pee in there, I'm putting that back on you after your freaking bath. And I don't care who knows it. I feel a little weird now, but no, it's like, you're going to just keep growing up, aren't you? And then the first time you buy an electronic, you're going to want something newer next year. I want the new thing. Oh, fucking hell. What did it do? That's what it's like. And then a house as well. Okay. Parenting.
What did you think of Eternal Sunshine when we watched it this time? Had it been a while since you'd seen that?
Yeah, and I love that movie. I still love it, but because it's, and this is so narcissistic of me, but because it doesn't deal with children at all, there's an element missing for me as far as like relating to it the way that I did when I first watched it when I was single, and the people in that movie are in a different phase in their life.
But this applies to all things, like all movies?
No. Specifically mind-bending things. Because at the time that I watched it, I was relating so much to both characters, and their pain and confusion, and what would I do in that situation if I knew all the shit things about somebody before going into a relationship, stuff like that. And I'm so past that point in my life because I know that I'll never need to think about those things again because I have you. Oh, okay. Or I might. But if I went through a breakup, I think the movie would mean more again. It's just I don't have those worries. So they still felt they were done very well. I still felt them in that moment watching it, but it wasn't as profound.
In that movie, Kate Winslet breaks up with him. Once again, though, you have the weird, murky kind of, like, she breaks up with him, but it doesn't feel to him like they're broken up, but then she's already moved on. I just realized that kind of sort of murkiness where it feels like one person's like looking for the other conversation that's going to provide closure or at least answers just never comes.
Right. And again, like, that was their big finishing move. It took them everything just to do that, to storm out of the house or to whatever it is that they did. But because that's not, it doesn't matter if it's not closure to you. Like, once the other person's done, that story's closed no matter how it left it. That's really unsatisfying. Tell me the answers. Tell me how not to be a shit to the next person so I don't be a shit to the next.
You have, if this movie had come out a few years later, I wonder how it would have been different because of Facebook. When I got broken up with by my longtime girlfriend, I did download a Chrome extension called Eternal Sunshine that would block her on, like, I guess this is before Facebook developed like good blocking. Like, if you don't want to see pictures of your exes with their new hot boyfriend in Cabo, like, I didn't want to do that.
What happened to you?
Well, I wouldn't know because I put on the Eternal Sunshine thing.
Right.
So it's just funny that, like, now there is a sort of way you can do this where you can erase this person's existence from Facebook and social media such that it feels like they actually don't exist.
I mean, that it's all very an unbelievable thing that process it. That the fact that, I mean, I can't get my mom to not say something I get her to promise not to say to my sister-in-law. How am I going to, how's somebody else going to get my mom to never mention my ex-husband again? That she would, it's an impossible thing to imagine that everyone's just going to sign up on this new reality because you've decided to make a decision.
Right.
That means that person doesn't get to be important to anyone else that you both knew together. That's not fucking fair. Everyone didn't start hating.
No, it's not fair.
It's not fair.
The point of the movie, which I don't totally agree with, is like there's some sort of like essence that links us to each other that goes beyond our memories, because Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet find each other again, even though they erase each other from their memories.
But they didn't. Remember, they did that one thing where they got away from the map of that was tracking his brain,
but like that's
for her to whisper, "Find me in Montauk." That's literally all that happened, and everything happened.
That's how what happened. What I'm saying happened. Yeah. It's like there's what that essence that links us. You know, it's like really all that binds us together is a marriage contract.
Okay,
Isn't there something else?
Wait, but I think it's something way cooler than that. I don't think it has to be mystical at all. I think about. You and I kind of play with this idea too. Like, I wonder what it would be like if you and I met now. I'll bet we'd be attracted to each other again. Like, if your mind was wiped and mine too, and then we just found each other in some bar, and we started talking, there's no way I wouldn't like you all over again. You know, like if you were ever right for somebody, there's things.
You're probably going to be right for them again.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wanted to disagree with that. I was like,
ha!
Well,
I looked at you longingly, and then you couldn't. What is different about me now?
Huh? I still feel like you're just, you're too good for me.
Oh God, you have to cut all this out.
The options would be so much better at the bar for you. I don't know. Okay. When you're out for a night of cat call. I don't know.
Cat call.
You're out there to get some tail.
Oh my God, I've never gone out to get tail in my life. I've begrudgingly given it.
You hit the TGI Fridays with your gal pals.
Have one of those smoky entrees that are always steaming.
That's only 550
Is that
calories?
A mixed grill. Surf and turf.
These are some bros. They're at Applebee's. They're getting some ribs. The waitress is bringing over a pina colada, and they're like, fucking bros. I don't...
Oh, that was intense.
So when you're doing that...
When I'm doing that.
You spot me across the Applebee's, and you're like, who is that?
It's a little bit harder. I don't know why in your world the bar we're at is the Applebee's.
The Applebee's,
I was more thinking of something where it's a little bit more conversational.
I find Applebee's more conversational than bars.
Not if you're there, not together. How fucking weird is that to go join someone in the middle of their dining experience? When did they order? Were they about to get the check? That's rude.
At least we'd be able to hear. The older I get, the harder I fucking have.
Well,
the harder time I have.
I didn't say nightclub.
I just wanted to mention this. Bars are getting so much harder for me to hear in, and like they're not for you, and you get so mad at me. You're like, what are you talking about? It's so easy to hear in here.
I don't say that.
You do.
I just say that you're taking me away from the fun part of this bar and bringing me to the not fun, and then it ends up being fun anyway. So thank you.
Do you want to ask me about Jim Carrey?
Not really.
Oh.
Do you want to tell me about Jim Carrey?
Well, we've talked a lot about him on the podcast, and I kept saying,
and you always dismissively say, yeah, he's good in
Eternal Sunshine. Did I find him good this time?
He was fucking excellent.
He's good.
Yeah.
You know what I don't like about him, though?
That he's the best.
And the reason I'm sure he took this role is because the fucking scene where he gets to play a 4-year-old.
I love
Jim Carrey shit. He's like, Mom, I love you. Hold me.
He's really good at it, and that's not why he took the fucking role.
I hate that shit. But otherwise, yes, excellent in this movie. Kate Winslet, excellent.
She's
in a
great.
Role that...
it's against type, I would say.
I don't know.
You know?
I mean, yeah, I guess Kate Winslet, yeah.
Well, I mean, how long ago had Titanic happened?
8 years.
See? Against type.
Don't you feel like that Clementine is the 2005 version of Rose? Like, isn't that what Rose would be like?
Yeah, actually.
In 2005, always changing her hair, has lots of...
Yeah, well, I mean, because we know Rose didn't sit on the saddle of a horse sideways.
Yeah, both
she
one leg
split
per
the
side.
legs. Yeah, so she's a modern woman.
So, Charlie Kaufman movies, go see them. I loved adaptations. Like one would be a load-bearing beam, like legit, because I haven't seen it in a long time, and it's very like junior high school English class.
God, English class was different for you than me.
But that movie meant a lot to me in high school.
Yeah, I barely remember it. I only saw it once.
Let's watch it sometime.
Give it a little look.
All right.
I'm just a little person, one person in a sea of many little people who are not.
Hello. Just kidding.
Welcome to Load Bearing Beams.
Mind bending. It's load bearing inception.
We pretend like we don't remember the earlier part of the podcast.
I'm strangely attracted to you. Let's do a podcast together.
Hello.
Ew, don't be
these-
breathy.
Are these mozzarella sticks?
Don't be
taken?
breathy.
Don't be breathy.
Hello. I hate that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's hard for me to keep track of all the things you hate.
I know. You need a board.
You know what I heard on a podcast? Somebody else said that it was the Deadspin podcast, the Deadcast. They were talking about words that they can't stand hearing. Mm-hmm. And somebody said meal.
Thank God.
Yes.
Oh, give me their phone number because I'll never call them because I also hate phone calls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hating the word meal. I want a meal.
Yeah, no one's ever said that,
We'll get you a
man.
nice meal.
It's all the way people. It's all the other ways people actually say it that bother me.
Let's have a nice meal.
Stop calling it things. Just eat the food.
There's one other one that they said. I wish I could fucking remember it. Fuck.
Was it
Chunks.
Chunks is funny to me.
You're saying like I can't buy pineapple chunks and say
Oh yeah, that is gross. Who would want?
I bought little bits and pieces of pineapple. Anyway, our podcast is Load Bearing Beams. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, please.
Do it. Like
on
it.
iTunes.
Pound it.
Pound that like button.
Pound some tang.
Follow us on Twitter at Load Bearing Pod. Like us on Facebook. Load Bearing Beams is the handle.
Like us as people
And if you do that,
in the world. And if you really liked us, you'd leave a freaking review
on iTunes.
Yeah.
And if it's your pleasure, mention a movie that you like us to talk about, and we will. If it's your pleasure. If it's
Stop!
not your pleasure,
I
don't
let
do
it happen once, and now it's 3 times you've done that.
Okay.
Now it's not. I'm not having pleasure.
That's it. I'm Matt Stokes.
Okay, I love you. Bye.
She's Lacey Roth.
No, I'm not.
3, 4. Everybody, love bearing beams, love bearing beams. Love bearing beams, love bearing beams. Love bearing beams, love bearing beams. Spider-Man.